Have you ever noticed something truly fascinating about silence in our noisy digital world? We're all surrounded by a constant stream of shared moments, birthdays, daily coffee rituals, breathtaking sunsets, moments of joy, and even times of sadness, often softened with filters. Yet, some individuals remain completely out of sight. They glide through their feeds, absorbing everything, but rarely, if ever, contribute their own posts. Perhaps you recognize someone like this. Maybe, just maybe, you are one of them. And if so, a question often crosses people's minds. Why? Why would anyone choose to remain an observer when the entire world seems to be clamoring for recognition? It's easy to jump to conclusions, to think that those who don't post are simply shy or perhaps a little introverted. But that's far from the complete picture. Beneath the surface, a rich tapestry of psychological forces is at play. It's a story that reveals profound insights into human nature, our sense of self, and a quiet, powerful resistance to a culture utterly consumed by visibility. You see, for some, silence isn't an absence. It's a deliberate act of control. It's the profound power to decide what pieces of their world remain just for them. Let's be honest, whether we acknowledge it or not, social media has subtly redefined how we perceive ourselves. It glorifies outward display. It celebrates the loudest voices. Yet, those who choose to dwell in the shadows are often the ones who possess the clearest vision. They observe without needing to interject. They ponder deeply before reacting. They analyze thoroughly before forming judgments. Psychologists have uncovered a remarkable truth. Individuals who consistently abstain from frequent posting often exhibit higher levels of self-restraint, deep introspection, and a strong sense of emotional independence. They tend to be less swayed by social comparisons and external praise. In essence, they aren't engaged in a constant effort to prove who they are. Instead, they are dedicated to genuinely understanding themselves. And in a world overflowing with curated performances, that kind of authenticity is truly precious. Let's face it, much of what we share isn't merely communication. It's a careful construction of our identity. It's an often unconscious audition for acceptance and belonging. Every caption, every photograph, every status update subtly declares, "This is me. Do you approve?" But when you step back from posting, something profound shifts. You begin to liberate your sense of worth from the fickle nature of digital applause. You stop framing your life in terms of captions. Instead, you start truly living and experiencing moments for their own sake, rather than through the lens of a camera. And that, my friends, is the underlying psychology for many who choose not to post. They yearn for genuine authenticity in a space where everything often feels meticulously staged. They don't despise social media. They simply find it harder to recognize their true selves within it anymore. It's not about being against technology or antisocial. It's a refusal to condense the rich complexity of your life into mere highlight reels. Because once you understand how effortlessly perception can be manipulated, you begin to treasure what cannot be posted. True silence, profound depth, beautiful imperfection, and unvarnished truth. For some, the decision to stop posting emerges from a deep sense of emotional exhaustion. Perhaps they once shared everything, until one day, it simply ceased feeling real. They realized that each time they shared a beautiful moment, an unspoken pressure mounted to constantly outdo themselves. They weren't truly living anymore. They were perpetually performing. So, they quietly exited. No grand announcement, just a gradual fading from the digital feed. But here's a crucial point that is often misunderstood. Not posting doesn't signify a lack of feeling. It doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, it often means they care intensely. About genuine presence, about true meaning, about safeguarding what they hold sacred. There's a psychological concept known as psychological ownership. It's that deep internal feeling that something, a thought, a memory, an experience, is profoundly and uniquely yours. And when you post it, that profound sense of ownership can diminish, even if only slightly. The moment becomes shared property, exposed to judgment, open to misinterpretation, and sometimes even ridicule. So, those who refrain from posting are often diligently protecting their profound sense of ownership over their very lives. They keep their precious moments untouched, private, and pure. And perhaps this isn't a sign of sadness or withdrawal. Perhaps it's a quiet, profound form of freedom. Because truly, consider this. When was the last time you experienced something deeply meaningful and felt no impulse whatsoever to share it? When did you last laugh, cry, or achieve something significant without immediately considering posting it online? That inherent reflex, that deep-seated urge to display, isn't natural. It's a learned behavior. It's the cumulative result of a decade of likes, shares, and dopamine loops, meticulously training our brains to equate external validation with intrinsic value. And when someone deliberately steps outside that pervasive system, it can feel like an act of quiet rebellion. Yet, it's also a powerful act of healing. They begin to rediscover the profound simplicity of doing things purely for themselves once more, cooking without photographing it, traveling without tagging every location, feeling emotions without the need to explain them. In that sacred space, something truly awakens, a profound self-awareness that requires no audience whatsoever. However, it's important to acknowledge that not everyone who chooses not to post does so from a place of serene peace. Some are driven by a deep-seated fear, the fear of judgment, the pain of rejection, or the anxiety of being fundamentally misunderstood. Social media has significantly amplified a subtle but pervasive form of anxiety that psychologists term self-presentational pressure. It's that relentless awareness that you are constantly being observed, even when you aren't explicitly sharing. And for many, that constant vigilance is utterly exhausting. They worry that their words might be misconstrued, or, even worse, completely overlooked. So they retreat, not because they lack the desire to connect, but because the perceived cost of visibility feels overwhelmingly high. They yearn to be seen, but only authentically, not superficially. And, ironically, sometimes the quietest people online harbor the most vibrant, bustling thoughts within their minds. They are not absent. They are overflowing with internal experiences. They simply choose the quiet dignity of stillness over the fleeting spectacle of performance. There is a deep, almost philosophical resonance to such silence. In a world that relentlessly shouts, "Look at me," the deliberate choice of invisibility becomes a profound act of self-definition. It is a quiet declaration. I exist far beyond your immediate perception. They might scroll through the lives of others, nodding in understanding, smiling at joys, sometimes aching with shared human experience, but they rarely project their own. This is because they grasp a truth that many miss. Not everything you experience is destined to be witnessed. Sometimes the most profound and transformative moments in life, periods of deep growth, private grief, significant personal transformation, unfold quietly, unseen, unposted. And once you have navigated enough of these private transformations, you begin to understand that being unseen is not synonymous with being insignificant. It is, in fact, precisely where true identity is forged, not merely performed. Here lies the fascinating paradox. Social media was originally designed to bridge connections, yet it frequently leaves individuals feeling more isolated than ever before. When you cease posting, you stop relentlessly pursuing digital closeness and instead begin the vital work of rebuilding genuine, tangible connections. You start to notice who genuinely checks in on you, without the need for constant updates. You discover who truly remembers you without relying on digital reminders. That kind of connection, raw, unbroadcasted, deeply felt, carries a profound weight, a warmth, and an infinitely greater sense of reality. And the people who choose not to post, they inhabit that precious space. They cultivate relationships that require no digital proof. They discover profound comfort in the sacredness of unshared moments. And they allow life to unfold organically, without ever needing to convert it into content. Part of this deep alignment is also about identity security, knowing exactly who you are, even when there's no one else watching. When you are truly comfortable in your own company, you don't need an audience to validate your inherent worth. That isn't arrogance, it is profound peace. And, ironically, the very people who choose not to post often possess the most captivating stories to share, but they reserve these tales for when you're genuinely sitting across from them, sharing physical space, not merely across a screen. Because to them, real connection is not measured in fleeting comments or superficial likes. It thrives in shared silences, in the profound connection of eyes meeting, in laughter that requires no witnesses or digital verification. These are the individuals who carry entire worlds within them, who process experiences deeply, observe constantly with keen insight, and understand the subtle nuances of life quietly. They don't require the world's applause to validate their existence. They simply need to fully live it. And perhaps, just perhaps, in a world so desperately yearning to be seen, their silence isn't a flaw. It's a powerful mirror, a gentle reminder that not every meaningful moment needs to be publicly shared. That sometimes, the most profoundly human act you can undertake is to keep something entirely, beautifully, and sacredly for yourself. You know what's truly captivating? The longer someone steps away from the social media current, the more profoundly they begin to perceive the world around them. Colors appear richer, time seems to expand and slow down, and conversations feel remarkably deeper and more meaningful. It's almost as if retreating from the constant digital noise reawakens the vivid reality of everything. Because when you stop constantly performing, you truly begin to experience. There's an inherent quiet beauty in navigating life without feeling the incessant need to document every single step. You're no longer preoccupied with finding the perfect angle, adjusting the lighting, or crafting a clever caption. You are simply there, fully alive, deeply immersed within the moment itself, rather than observing it from a detached external perspective. And that kind of profound presence is something social media rarely permits us to experience anymore. But the psychology underpinning this goes far deeper than mere personal preference or taste. It is intricately woven into how our brains process validation. Each time we post something online and it garners attention, likes, comments, hearts, our brain releases dopamine, the very same chemical intricately linked to reward and addictive behaviors. Over time, we can inadvertently become conditioned to crave that external validation. We start unconsciously framing our experiences in terms of their shareability rather than their intrinsic genuine value. Now, imagine someone who actively resists this powerful, pervasive loop. Someone who consciously chooses to disconnect from that dopamine-driven cycle. That isn't a lack of interest. That is extraordinary discipline. It requires a profound level of self-awareness to actively resist something meticulously designed to keep you continuously hooked. Individuals who choose not to post often possess a strong internal locus of control, a vital psychological term signifying that their sense of self-worth and genuine happiness emanates from within, rather than relying on external approval. They don't require the fleeting digital echo of "you're enough" to truly believe it themselves. And here's an even more intriguing insight. Studies consistently demonstrate that individuals who take extended breaks from both posting and consuming social media content frequently report a measurable increase in their emotional stability and overall life satisfaction. Because when your fundamental sense of identity is no longer perpetually being reflected back to you by external sources, it solidifies. It becomes undeniably real. You are no longer editing your life into something neatly digestible for public consumption. You are simply living it in all its beautiful, messy, unfiltered complexity. And perhaps that is the ultimate rebellion, to remain whole and integrated in a world that constantly rewards fragmentation. Yet, online silence does not invariably signify serenity. Sometimes it masks profound exhaustion. For many, social media began as a hopeful avenue for connection, but ultimately became a draining experience. There's a subtle but significant emotional fatigue that accumulates from perpetually witnessing everyone else's meticulously curated highlight reels, while you're still diligently piecing together your own intricate behind the scenes. You inevitably begin to compare, even when you earnestly try not to. You start to question your own inherent worth, even when intellectually you know better. And eventually, some individuals make the courageous decision to step away, not out of bitterness, but as a vital act of self-preservation. They recognize that they owe the world no grand performance. They owe no elaborate explanation for their silence, and they certainly don't need to constantly prove their happiness to be believed. That is one of the quiet, yet profound truths of our modern generation. We have mistakenly equated visibility with true value. We assume that to truly matter, we must always be noticed. But genuine meaning doesn't require witnesses. Some of the most profoundly impactful moments of your entire life, the ones that fundamentally shape who you become, will unfold without a single person watching. No cameras, no clever captions, no audience whatsoever, just you. And perhaps that is what those who choose not to post understand most deeply. They know that privacy is not a synonym for loneliness. It is, in fact, a deeply intimate connection with yourself. Because when you cease broadcasting every fleeting thought and feeling, you begin to truly hear your own voice again. You start to reconnect with those essential parts of yourself that somehow got lost amidst the relentless digital noise. Your quiet aspirations, your unspoken fears, the gentle guidance of your inner compass. And in today's world, that profound reconnection is something truly spiritual. It is not a retreat. It is a powerful homecoming. Of course, this path isn't always perfectly peaceful. There are undoubtedly moments of doubt, moments when you might wonder if your silence renders you invisible, if you are falling behind while everyone else appears to be broadcasting their progress. But with the passage of time, you begin to notice something exquisitely beautiful. Your inherent worth does not simply vanish when no one is looking. It remains steadfast, steady, like the comforting hum of a quiet room after a storm has passed. And perhaps that is the true essence of real confidence. Not the loud, performative declarations of self online, but the serene, unwavering assurance of self offline. Some people might glibly ask, if you didn't post it, did it even truly happen? But the undeniable truth is, the experiences that shape you most deeply rarely, if ever, make it onto the feed. Your deepest personal growth, your most profound heartbreaks, your private triumphs, your quiet acts of selfless kindness, they reside in the sacred sanctuary of memory, not in the ephemeral world of social media. And perhaps that is more than enough. When psychologists delve into the concept of authentic self-expression, they consistently emphasize congruence, the vital alignment between who you genuinely are on the inside and the person you present to the external world. But in this age of pervasive filters and carefully curated personas, that fundamental alignment is constantly at risk of being distorted. You can inadvertently begin to live as a meticulously crafted version of yourself, primarily designed for external approval. Therefore, when someone consciously chooses not to post, it might very well be their profound way of preserving that congruence, of safeguarding that fragile, precious truth between their inner and outer worlds. They don't require everyone to witness what they are feeling to validate its reality. They don't need to capture every breathtaking sunset to vividly recall how it made them feel. They live their lives fully, deeply, and quietly. And here is the profound paradox. Those who live quietly often experience life with the most intense depth and feeling. They are not distracted by the constant performance of it. They meticulously absorb subtle details that others might completely miss. The delicate way light shifts on a wall, the almost imperceptible pause just before someone speaks, the faint echo of distant laughter. They are truly present. And in a world relentlessly built on demanding attention, genuine presence is the rarest and most valuable currency. But sometimes, that very depth of presence can lead to misunderstanding. People might inaccurately label them as detached, mysterious, or even emotionally distant. Yet, if you look beyond the surface, their silence isn't an emptiness. It is a profound depth. It is the calm, unwavering inner peace that arises from no longer needing to constantly explain yourself to be truly understood. There's a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from not needing to be known by absolutely everyone, but rather profoundly understood by a cherished few. And that, fundamentally, is what the people who choose not to post understand most deeply. They know that not every profound truth is destined for the casual observation of a crowd, that certain sacred parts of your being deserve to remain utterly untouched by the cold logic of algorithms and the fleeting whims of public opinion. Because once something becomes truly public, it ceases to be purely yours. It surrenders itself to interpretation, to judgment, to the ever-shifting currents of trends. And perhaps some moments are simply too sacred, too fragile for that kind of exposure. So, the next time you become aware of someone who consistently refrains from posting, please don't automatically assume they are hiding something. Perhaps they are simply living. Perhaps they have discovered a profound, lasting peace in the quiet, unlit corners of existence, the very corners that remain untouched by the blue, insistent glow of a screen. Perhaps they are the very ones who have lovingly remembered what so many of us have regrettably forgotten. That being unseen doesn't equate to being alone. That being quiet doesn't signify emptiness. And that sometimes the most profound and authentic expression of who you truly are is found in the depths of silence. Because in the end, we are not meant to be mere performances. We are meant to be beautifully, authentically, and complexly human beings. And the people who choose not to post, they stand as a gentle yet powerful reminder of that fundamental truth with every quiet, unfiltered, and exquisitely invisible moment they live.